best fight of the weekend in just a minute. But I know there's all this talk about Justin Gaethje and Tony Ferguson. They've gone back and forth on Twitter. But let's just say that Tony Ferguson and Khabib fight. Wouldn't Anthony Pettis and Justin Gaethje be a great fight next?
Well, here's the thing about that. You can say, wouldn't it be great if Justin Gaethje fought literally anybody, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's a great fight. Right now, where Justin Gaethje is at, it doesn't matter who he fights. It starts great and it only just gets like exponentially greater. So yes, I would agree with you that Pettis is up there. If I could pick anybody in the world for Gaethje to fight, my pick would be Nate Diaz. I just think that their attitudes mesh up well, and then I think their fighting styles obviously mesh up well. Nate has sort of been sitting around waiting for that third fight against Conor. You saw Conor tweet on the night that Justin Gaethje beat Michael Johnson. So in my mind, it's like Justin Gaethje sort of got Conor's attention. So now, if Nate really wants that third fight against Conor, why not fight Gaethje? And I really do think that fight would gain a lot of eyeballs. It would have a lot of attention on it, and it would be a perfect fight for one of those guys to try to call out Conor McGregor. I mean, the reality is the best fight for McGregor once he comes back to the division is the winner of Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov. But, in the meantime, if Nate Diaz and Justin Gaethje want to go at it in a 5-round main event somewhere, Arda, I think that the two of us would be pretty excited to watch that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And we might as well just talk about that fight because it's a Fight of the Year candidate, and it was awesome, and I can't stop gushing about that fight. It was my favorite fight of the weekend. I'm sure it was yours. I'm guessing it was yours.
It was absolutely, yeah. I mean, maybe my favorite fight of the year so far. I'd have to give that some thought, but it's definitely right up there.
Yeah, and it was a fitting main event, and it was definitely a great coming out party for Justin Gaethje. Not for the 10%, but for the UFC casual fan, they suddenly saw this guy, and it's like, wow, this guy is a firecracker.
Well, here's the thing about Justin Gaethje. So coming into this weekend and going into his main event against Michael Johnson, the questions were, this guy is crazy. I mean, he's reckless. He throws caution to the wind. He puts himself in the line of fire, and he always finds a way to get it done. A guy with his skill set and his approach to fighting should not be 17-0. He should have ran himself into a loss at some point by now. And so a lot of people were pointing to the level of opposition that he's faced. Okay, so he hasn't fought the best in the world, and that's why he's able to get away with this. Well, we saw in his UFC debut that he's still going to fight with that exact same style, and he was able to beat Michael Johnson, whose record does not look great as of late, but we all know that he's at least top 15 guy, if not maybe even a little bit higher than that. So now the question is, did he prove a point, and will he continue to move on and beat and have success in the very top of the division, or are our concerns still valid, and will this guy end up running into a knockout loss?
Some very unanswered questions that we hopefully will get answers to as we go along in Justin Gaethje's career in the UFC. A couple other fights. Rob Font, you gave him an A+ performance on your Twitter. Why was that?
Just well-rounded, man. Very well-rounded performance, in rhythm, in a groove. The guy he fought, Andrade, had no idea what was coming next, and that's a scary thing. I can think of two extremely scary things. Well, I mean, I can think of a lot of scary things to happen if you are inside the octagon. But the first one I always say is getting tired. I can't think of anything more terrifying than being in the fist fight and just being completely exhausted where you can't raise your arms up anymore. And the second one is that you have literally absolutely no idea what's coming at you anymore because the guy is just hitting you from every angle, every range. There's no safe spot, and that's where Rob Font had his opponent tonight. There was no safe place for Andrade in the octagon, and it was extremely impressive to watch.
Whether it's UFC 213 or the Tough 25 finale, anything else stick out from you from the prelims?
Yeah, Travis Browne, man. What has happened to Travis Browne? I just think, I was talking about Anthony Pettis losing his identity a little bit. Travis Browne, I think, has lost his, and he fell in love with the hands when he was training with Edmond Tarverdian, and you could tell in his last two fights that he really wanted to try to turn that around and use his kicks more, and he was doing that successfully. I mean, the kicks that he landed against Derek Lewis in his previous fight and the kicks he landed tonight, they were effective. But once he gets a guy hurt, he can't finish him. He seems to get sucked into these brawls, and then he gets knocked down, and then he doesn't know where he is. And then tonight with the tap, to Alexei Oleinik, I thought that he could have put up a little bit more of an effort. You hate to question guys' effort. You always hate to do that. I'm a spectator. I'm watching these guys. They train for it. You don't want to question their heart and their motives when they're in there. But if you're asking me, honestly, did I think Travis Browne could have fought a little bit harder to get out of that choke? Probably. And so that really raises the question of, well, why are you still in there? And Dana White at the press conference said, I think Travis Browne should retire. Travis Browne he's got a name, and I still think he can beat some heavyweights out there, but he was favored tonight. He didn't get the job done. Yeah, if he's not in there all the way, then yeah, he should retire. And right now it's a fair question to ask if he is in there all the way.
A couple of other things from this International Fight Week, wrapping things up. How amazing was that Jones-Cormier promo video? Man.
Well, it should be amazing. This is an amazing story, and I wish that, John Jones seems to embrace it a little bit, and at the same time, he doesn't. He doesn't. And I think he has reached a point in his career where he doesn't have to talk to media as much as he used to. You see that with everybody. These guys reach a certain level, and they don't have to go off and do all these interviews. They don't have to be in the headlines every single week. But I would be curious to hear a little bit from John Jones. I mean, that promo is so special because it tells the truth. You had a guy, and I remember this. I remember back in, what was it, 2011 when he won the title. And I remember looking at babyface John Jones and talking about running down, car burglars in New Jersey. I remember that, man. I was there. I was there for his fight against Shogun. And, I remember Dana White saying, well, now the real test begins because now we're going to see if this guy can handle all the success that comes with fame and money. And he did not handle it at all. It ruined him, and that's a compelling story. And now it's like, all right, all of your second and third and fourth chances are up. Like, you're either going to do this now or you're not. And so that's what that promo told, and it was a great promo. And I just hope that, we got, 3 weeks to go now before that fight?
Yeah.
I hope that John opens up and talks about it a little bit, and maybe he won't because he just wants to focus on Daniel Cormier and the task at hand. He doesn't want to go down memory lane and talk about all his mistakes. That's fair. I probably wouldn't want to do that either. But that's a really good story, man. And that is the story. Whether you like it or not, that is the story going into this fight. So we'll see what he says about it in the next coming weeks.
There's a few people online that say that John Jones won't even get into the octagon. They're not convinced that he's going to show up or something's going to happen to this fight. Where do you land on that?
Negative people online, Arda, get out of here, man. There are no negative people online. No, I mean you can't sit here and say that it's impossible. The guy has a track record of doing so, but you almost wonder what it would be at this point, And if for some reason that were to happen, if something were to happen to pull John Jones off this event, at least something that's within his control, well, then it just becomes, even more of a sad story. John Jones has already kind of been a sad story, but he's got time to turn it around and turn it into a positive story. If something were to happen between now and the fight, 3 weeks, then it becomes just a very, very, very sad story. More sad than it already is.
Last question for you, Brett. After being in the video package for the Uriah Faber Hall of Fame, did you sign a lot of autographs tonight?
Oh, I've been signing autographs since 2009, before John Jones was champion. They won't leave me alone, man. They come at me from every angle. No, man.
You did some pretty secretive stuff this weekend too. I saw a picture online of you doing something for SportsCenter with I think Uriah was beside you, a couple other fighters too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. No, it was fun to be on a commemorative video inducting Uriah Faber into the Hall of Fame. It's not, well, I didn't induct him. I just was talking about the guy. But then I got to see him the next day, and yes, we sat down, we shot some stuff for SportsCenter. All of you listeners out there will get to see that, and I'm really excited for you guys to see it. It was really fun. It was myself, Uriah Faber, Dustin Poirier, and John Wood, the head coach out of Syndicate MMA here in Las Vegas. It was some fun stuff.
All right, so this was a bonus edition of the 5 Rounds podcast. You can get it on iTunes and on the ESPN app. Download the ESPN app because Brett, like today with the Amanda Nunes story, is constantly breaking news, and you can get those alerts straight to your app. We will be back on Wednesday-ish, but I'm going to say Wednesday because we're 1 for 1.
Wednesday-ish.
2 for 2, actually. 2 for 2. Or 1 for 1. 1 for 1. And so we're going to keep this
1 for 1.
streak
Take it
going.
easy, yeah. Yep. Wednesday-ish. We're going to stick to that.
Exactly. So we'll see you Wednesday-ish for the next edition of